All right, we're back. We've just luckily we recorded this podcast a little later so I could cool off from a very intense loss at number 2 Tennessee. We lost by 3 points. 46 for Tennessee, 43 for Auburn. We lost right at the buzzer. We had a chance to tie it up with a Wendell Green, very deep, very messy three that we will get into about the foul. I think that's the big story that people are talking about right now, but there's always in tight games, you always end up talking about that last play or whatever when we just got done playing 39 minutes and 50 seconds of college basketball and everybody wants to talk about the last 10 seconds. And we will talk about it because it does play into certain narratives that happen during the game. But man, you lose by 3 on the road to number 2 Tennessee. And I think if you asked me if I would take that before the game, I'd be like, oh man, that's great. That means we played pretty well on the road against a very, very good team that people say is going to be a potentially a number 1 seed, and I'd be happy. I mean, I think a big thing with this is 46-43. The defenses were really good. It's just a frustrating 3-point loss because it confirmed in my head a lot of things that like we were already scared of. I'd rather lose this game 88-85 or something and feel like we, somebody figured it out. Johan scored 15 or something. We figured something out. I don't know. Matt's shaking his head. You just got done watching the game. I think you're a little less cooled off than me, maybe. So just give me some early thoughts.
We have a lot to get into. I would disagree with you on that because if you didn't believe that this is who this team is, and we're 20 something games in, this is how we have to play. And I'm really proud of how, if you've played basketball, it is incredibly hard to play defense how we played defense on the road against that Tennessee team when you cannot make a shot. Like I just don't know if you're just watching, realize how hard that is. I think our scout was absolutely phenomenal. I thought we executed it to an almost perfection. We gave ourselves a chance to win in a game where we shot 24% from the field and 11% from 3 against that Tennessee team. So I want to start there. Really good. And I'm not as worked up. Ben and I talked about the Georgia game where we scored 94 points. That's not sustainable for this group. We know that's not. Even if we had gone into Tennessee and scored, a storyline would have been, wow, we scored 72 against Tennessee and we lost, but we scored a lot of points. I'm very proud of the effort, and I don't like doing. We're past the point of moral, whatever. As a program, you want to beat Tennessee. I live in Tennessee. I want to beat them in their place. We had won 5 or 6 in a row against them. This is 2 straight on the road that we've lost. It's very frustrating. But my biggest question about this game was, can Auburn match the physics? I don't know how tough this team is. That's one of my big things. And I don't know how you could watch that game today and not just be really impressed with the toughness and the we matched the physicality of Tennessee. You were on it from the very beginning. The refs chose to let both teams play for the most part. I think that helped us overall. I know it was frustrating at times. We couldn't get a foul call, but I don't know. I was proud of the fight. I'm proud of the effort. There's plenty of execution issues and missed shots and lots to bad to talk about. But we ultimately, the thing that hurts, this is such a rare opportunity for this team to get a win like this. And you just fall just a little short. And you think about all the little things, the free throws, just the little turnovers that drive you crazy. But really a great performance. And the key for this team moving forward is going to be to build on this and not let it deflate them, because it's going to be a deflating loss. And Bruce said it's the toughest loss of the year for sure.
Every possession in this game was so
yep.
My blood pressure levels were so high because it felt like in such a low scoring game, every little mistake, every time we let them have an easy basket, or every time we missed an easy basket, every time we turned the ball over, it was so frustrating and upsetting because you just knew this game was going to swing on some little small thing. And it did, honestly. That's the issue. And you try to avoid this, I guess, or we're going to try to avoid this on the post game, I believe. Because like you talk about something like the Wendell Green foul at the end that didn't get called. And then you talk about maybe the tech that Wendell got from the alleged flop that I believe got a foul. And then the whole Vescovi the other way around, flopping, but getting the 4-point play at the end.
Right.
It's just these little ones you remember so much because the game was so close and it matters. We lose by 10. It's hard to like pick out these little moments. We're talking bigger picture because it was such a small deal. You just hit a 3 at the end, or you hit a couple more shots, another turnover too, and you win the game. And the narrative's completely different. Wow, we won a rock fight. The announcers, I was tweeting about this. You guys, if you're on Twitter, got to see the kind of texts I usually send to Matt and Ben and Ryan, but they were less active on the text. I was tweeting it all out at the same time. But the announcers early in the game were like, it's going to be a rock fight because this Tennessee team's a great defense. We'll see if Tennessee can win a rock fight. We'll see if Auburn can. I was like, are you kidding? Did you guys do a scout? Because it felt like, honestly, the announcers did not do a scout on Auburn. So all they talked about was Tennessee the entire time. And I want to say, like, the thing that makes me most frustrated and upset, and the reason it's hard for me to give a lot of credit for a 3-point loss away at number 2 is they score 43 points. And how many games are you going to win scoring 43 points, even on the road? And I want to be like, I want to say to start the podcast, I wanted to say, you're not going to win any games if you score 43, but we already won. I see Matt thinks I don't remember. We beat Northwestern in Mexico 43-42. So it's just like, I almost wish we scored one less points so I can make the point that you can't win a game like that. But we have. And that's another reason why it was so frustrating. The announcers are like, are you going to win a rock fight? We beat a team 43-42. We almost did tonight. And it frustrates me. And we talked about the refs a little bit. I tweeted that we're just not going to get these foul calls, man. We were getting the only foul calls we were getting is if we literally got knocked to the ground. There was a lot of these little calls you usually get in a game where Wendell picks up a rebound and gets like shoved in the shoulder. And it's usually kind of like, all right, calm down. And they were not calling that kind of stuff. They were not calling little slaps and things when you were trying to finish the ball. It's like, okay. And then the second half, the refs start blowing their whistle. And this is one of the big factors to me. And I think after this, maybe we can pick our biggest factors for the game. But a factor for me, it happens so often. And I hate to be like, oh, the refs calls this or blah, blah, blah. Because what a big thing usually happens, it gets too aggressive in the first. They let things go, which is fine. It's probably better for us, honestly, especially with Cardwell out, which we'll talk about too. But then the second, they start blowing the whistles almost immediately in the second half. The game changes. And at this point, it happens so often in college basketball. You almost have to be like, whichever team can change the way they play faster usually gets like a 5 or 10 point swing. And both teams kind of adjusted at the same time in this one. I wish we could have adjusted faster. I don't know if we can call that from the sidelines, like immediately be like, hey guys, they're calling now. Drive the freaking ball. Because what usually happens is the first team that starts driving the ball 2 or 3 times in a row and gets those free throws. And then the teams both look around and go, crap, well, they just went on a 5, 7, 8 point run because they got a ton of free throws because all of a sudden the game's changing. I was yelling from the top of the mountain, drive the ball. We can't shoot. Please just drive. I don't care. We're getting free throws because the refs have changed the game and Tennessee hasn't adapted yet. Didn't matter. Both teams kind of just the same time. We didn't drive enough.
We weren't getting calls. We weren't getting calls going to the bench.
I think in the second they started calling those, and we did get some free throws early in the second.
Yeah.
Now at the end, yeah, it got real annoying. And I mean, that's my whole thing on the refs is that they change the game sometimes by tightening up, and you have to adjust in time. But man, that end of game was really tough. I don't know if you want to get in that now or if you want to get into your one biggest stat, because I have a stat I know for sure I feel strong about is the biggest indicator of this game. But I want to hear what you have to say.
There's so many. It's hard for me to pick one. I think ultimately it was we shot really bad because they're the best defensive team in America statistically, and we missed open shots. But Tennessee missed open shots. We're one of the better defensive teams in America. So the shooting kind of balanced out. And now it's odd that both teams shot so poorly. But it kind of balanced out. I mean, we had 11 turnovers. They had 9. The offensive rebounds people will point to. Tennessee got 15. They got 21 last year in that game in Knoxville and kind of punked us with Kessler and Jabari a little bit. 15, we did better on the glass.
That's my stat.
Yeah.
I think both defenses were 10 out of 10. I think it wasn't just bad shooting or anything like that.
Right.
Both defenses played really well. On the other side of that coin, the shooting 11% from 3 from Auburn, 10% from Tennessee. From the field, 24% for Auburn, 27% from Tennessee. I think both of those the defenses were killing it. And if you watch the game, man, it was hard to get a shot. It was crazy. It was actually super impressive. Not all of that was from the defense. There were shots that should have been made. Yeah. I think we got lucky. They shot 10% from 3 in their own house. Now they got lucky that we shot 11%. I think if we had shot 17, 18, I'd just say, oh man, that's just good defense. but that's clearly way below even we've shot away anywhere else. But I think we got a little lucky that they're 10%. We don't hold teams to 10% typically from three, especially not at their house. So I think we got good there. But the stat that I think is a really big deal, and it's not as bad as I thought from just watching, but they had 10 points from second chance points, and we had 2. And if you watched, man, our defense was so locked in. It felt like they barely ever got a score on their first shot. Right down the stretch, they got a couple jump shots that really hurt because of how low scoring the game was. But man, they had a lot of possessions where we played great defense, a lot of bricks this game, a lot of really bad shots, but they put a lot back. They had a bunch of possessions where they had 2, 3, 4 tries even to get that ball in, which was super frustrating because we were not getting that. It didn't feel like. So that feels like to me in a 3-point loss away, it's because they got to have 3 or 4 chances at a shot and we didn't. We had a couple of those. And so I think that to me, all night long, I was watching that like, dang, what a great defense possession. Again, they got a rebound. What a great defense possession. Again, they get a rebound. What a great, and they finally get a score. Of course they do by the third time.
Yeah. You're right. They got 7 more offensive rebounds than us. They got 8 more shots than us in the game, and they made a few more shots. And that is the mathematicians look at this game probably. Having said that, I don't know how you could look at our roster and who was playing for us, and just not expect us to get out rebounded. If people have said, and Tennessee, I hope everybody got to watch this game. I mean, Tennessee is just a physical, big, veteran team that knows who they are. They have an identity. They're clearly vulnerable still with the Rick Barnes coaching. I mean, I think they lost to Florida in the swamp, not the swamp, but in Gainesville this week. They could have lost to us today when we didn't play great on offense. It is a huge reason we lost, but you're right. It felt worse in the game than what we actually did. And I think after the first few minutes of the game, we kind of almost played them even, if I had to guess. Maybe not quite, but I just thought the effort was there. I thought the physicality was there. We got away with fouls at the rim just like they did. Just think about all the guys that played, right? Wendell, 7 rebounds, by the way, some good ones, some good point guard rebounds. Jalen and Broom had 9. Flanagan had 8, some big ones. Chris Moore had a big one. But think about all the small guys. KD's small, Wendell's small, Zepp's small, Trey's small.
Chris Moore small for his position he was playing.
Well, that's what I mean. We're undersized at almost every position. Broom,
we were working really hard for those rebounds too. Man, there was some really intense, like afraid of getting our players injured rebounds because the refs were letting them play. And man, there was a ton of rebounds where they were at the very tips of their fingers getting it, falling to the ground, not getting the call even when they fall to the ground half the time. So they were working hard. I just think that's like part of the the roster we have, and it's annoying. And it's really funny that we finally, a game that was this tight on defense and we only score 43. You think maybe, Wendell is kind of the way this team goes, the way he plays is kind of the way this team goes. Well, he got to play against Ziegler this time, who is also short. I had no idea how short Ziegler is. Their point guard Ziegler might be shorter than Wendell. So it was a little fun game there. And for the most part, they kept him down. I mean, he scored 3 points, and I think he averages like 17.
Didn't make a shot. Didn't make a shot.
Yeah. And so they played good on me. 0 of 10. The other way around, Wendell was 2 of 10. So it was a tough night for everybody all around on defense. But that's my big stat. And we tried to make it up, I think, in steals and turnovers and fast break points. And we did to an extent. We had 13 fast break points to their 0. It didn't feel like we had 13. Maybe the fast break ones, some of those fast breaks might not have been like a straight up, like last game we saw some amazing Alan Flanagan fast break dunks. It wasn't really like that. I kept arguing on Twitter, not arguing. When we can't shoot, we're getting out rebounded. I'm always saying manufacture some transition basketball. Just push that thing. And usually with a KD or Flanagan, whoever, I'm like, all right, if it's not there when you're trying to streak down, just slow up. Let's reset our offense. When we're playing that badly on offense and shooting that bad, I'm like, just go. Just if it's 50-50 and you're playing this bad on offense, just go. And they did at times, and I think they made up for it. But I want, especially when they flip the switch from the referees, I was like, oh my God. If you get a ball that's anywhere, if you can move that ball up the court, move it as fast as you can, because that's what we need right now, because we're not getting crap on the half court offense because their defense was locked in and we're just not good at it anyways. So
it's a fascinating thought, right? If you put yourself in the coach's position, this is a slow paced team compared to how Bruce's teams usually play. I think that's on purpose. I I personally kind of disagreed with that. My take on that would be, I thought we needed to play this kind of game to have a chance to win, and it worked. Now you could say that's lucky, and Tennessee missed a lot of shots, but again, like we talked about, and so did we. We had a lot of open. I felt like honestly, we had, maybe this is biased, but I thought we had more open looks from the outside than they did. I thought we were all over them almost all the time on their guards, especially.
I felt our defense played even better than defense with all the way they talked about how amazing. I felt like we were locked in, the best we've been locked in all year. And if you might talk to a Tennessee fan, they would say, oh man, we had a bad offensive night. We couldn't get up. But I thought our defense was rocking it. And you're right. And I think the difference, like I came back to from before, was those second chance points. I thought our initial defense was always amazing. I had not seen, they're not that bad of a shooting team, really. If you watch them, you would think they were like a bad shooting team or something, and they're not really that bad. I had their stats pulled up. I think they're averaging in the 30s for 3-point percentage.
48% at home, 48% at home all year.
And we held them to 10%. And man, they were bad shots too. They weren't even just missing. They were missing hard bricks and not getting good shots. And then of course, the other way around, we weren't either. But I felt, you're a little harder the other way around. Kind of when a team misses a three, when you're on defense, you're like, of course they missed a three. It was a hard shot or whatever. Then we go do it. And I'm like, oh, that's because we didn't take a good shot. We didn't work our way over to whatever. Really, they just had a good defense, But there was a stretch there in the second. I got really frustrated when I was just driving the ball. And Wendell and Allen both took like back-to-back NBA threes. I was like, oh my God, I don't care if you take a charge. I don't just move the ball under the basket.
Yeah, I just disagree. I think I hear what you're saying, and I want them to do that. But if you watch Tennessee play defense, like that's what they want. They wanted to funnel Wendell into those big bodies. And
I think they would take I think if you ask them, would you rather Wendell drive into the big bodies or take an NBA range three, they'd say, oh yeah, let him take an NBA three all day. We'll give an NBA three to Allen Flanigan all day long before we let him drive the ball.
Well, fair, but Flanigan didn't really ever show. I thought Wendell, Flanigan, and Jalen are kind of three of our veterans that we really need to play well. I didn't think any of them looked comfortable or looked confident driving to the goal. I didn't think.
How about this switch up during the game? And I got really frustrated. I'll use this word. This team. If you could put one word for this team, it's frustrated. And we're not the only podcast you might out there saying that same word. I looked up synonyms for it, but that's just true. It's just true. They're frustrating. They started the game really strong with Broom and Jalen hitting some really nice shots. They were a little further out, but they were hitting some good shots. And it's like, man, wow, they're dominating down low. I hope this is something that continues. And it just went after the first possession, I don't know, first 4 minutes of the game, probably they just disappeared. And part of that was they started taking shots really far from the goal because they would get the ball and they could not work their way down there. Maybe that's their defense being really good.
That's the position.
Yeah. And it was just frustrating.
I don't think we can. It's tempting to say, well, we went away from it. Broom shot the most.
They could have took it. Maybe they took it away from us, but it got because it was just like, dang, something was working early, and we just couldn't continue it.
Shots. Look, we made some shots. I thought the start was key. I love that we have an identity that Ben's kind of been on this. Like we're pounding it inside. Like it's weird. It's not what we usually do any other year. But and Jalen hit a shot. By the way, Jalen, you can't go 1 for 10 when you're the guy open from three half the time.
This box score is going to be brutal. There's not going to be very good stats we're going to pull out of here.
But my point is, we didn't go away. Like they both shot almost the most attempts on the team. We didn't go away from those guys. Broom was clearly our main offensive focal point the whole game. Tennessee did a better job of pushing his entry. His catch was further away. He got away with a couple early that he got some good looks on from a Wendell pass and a couple other things. I honestly, one of my big takeaways, a positive thing, if you had any question about Janai Broom and how he belongs in this league, to go do what he did today, I'm not saying it was a masterpiece, but he has an attitude about him that is really impressive. I think he talks the talk. He's the kind of guy I want inside, and he proved it today. I have no questions about who he is in this league after that game. I thought he was terrific.
Do you think so? For those that didn't watch the game, and even if you did watch the game, the announcers were not. Dylan Cardwell is not a big scorer. Dylan Cardwell does not play super big minutes, but in my opinion, he's still a big deal to this team to give Broom that rest, and he plays aggressive defense and gets great rebounds. And we need that big guy. We do not have a guy if he's not in that can do what he does. They did not talk about him a lot with the announcers. I got frustrated. I really feel like they did not do a scout on Auburn. They came to see Tennessee play. But do you think this game would be different if Cardwell was there? Do you think we would have pulled the win off? Do you think it just would have looked different? What
Not
do you think?
really. He plays 8 or 10 minutes a game. He probably would have grabbed a couple more rebounds than Johan did. We got away with
the difference would be Broom would get some more rest, I guess, or we could do some different lineups.
But he's playing 28, 30 minutes a game. He played 32. Honestly, it's not that different. They trusted Johan to throw him out there. He hadn't played center all year. He was okay. We didn't. And my big fear when I heard Cardwell wasn't playing was just foul trouble, because you knew Tennessee was going to attack him. And fortunately for us, the refs really let him. He had a couple challenges on shots early that some refs might have called a foul on, trying to challenge that shot and getting maybe a piece of the arm. And he was never really in foul trouble. And that's a credit to him, but the refs helped, I think.
Let me ask you this question. How many NBA distant threes do you expect from Wendell a game? What do you think he averages? I mean, it could be less. You can give me a percentage. Make. He attempts at least 2 or 3 a game. How many do you expect as an average for Wendell to make?
I don't know.
Less than 1, 2.
I didn't expect him to make either one he made today.
Yeah, but I feel like, at some point, I feel like after a year and a half of watching him, he does, at some point, you have to admit, like, he's going to hit one, every other game, maybe, that kind of like blows the game open Wendell logo or keeps us in the game window. So I can't say it's completely, because I'm about to make a point, and it can't be completely like dismissed as luck. His 2 threes tonight were both bad shots, out NBA range threes. He does make some, so you can't completely say it's all lucky. But man, this game's so different if he doesn't hit those 2 big NBA length threes, and that's part of his skill level. Yeah. One of them was at the end of the game to put us back in the game. Huge. And when the game is 46-43, the difference, man, that 40-46 is like a blowout in a game like this. And he hit the other one, he hit 2, also kept us in the game, because there was a couple moments there. As much as this game ended up as a 3-point loss, man, something like we were talking about Cardwell being out. There were some moments there when we had some of our backups in and we could not hit anything to save our lives. And just every time they didn't make a 3, every time they didn't hit a layup, it was like, thank God, one more layup, one more 3 from them, and it would have felt like this was out of reach. Luckily, at one point, Wendell hit a 3. They put us in a big drought where they didn't hit anything either. It's like, thank God they kept us in the game. This next game, it kind of frustrates me again, because it's like, man, that's not an offense. Wendell hitting the 3 is not an offense. And we can be like, this game was within 3. But, man, it's only because we should have lost it if he doesn't hit those 37-46. And all of a sudden, man, we were talking about one of the worst offensive performances in Auburn history and talking about how this game was a blowout, even with us just scoring 37. But luckily, he kind of hit these wild shots.
Yeah. But you watched the game for 40 minutes. And I think the exercise everybody has to do, we'll get into KD eventually.
We have some hot takes on KD.
Yeah, we're going to disagree, because I just want you to tell me what you want more of after watching that game at the end. And just to let's get through the last minute first. Let's walk through that, and then we'll talk through maybe those 2 guys. So we were down 8 with 8 to go. The patented MAT system, if you've listened to the podcast, we were teetering on that edge. We hung in there. We got back in. I think we were down 3 or 4 at the last time out. We were in it. We went down 6 because of that Vescovi 4-point play, and that was KD, and we'll talk about that. But 6-point lead, and then a couple things. We're going to get on Bruce sometimes. I thought we played the last minute beautifully. We missed a shot with a minute left, down 6, and you're kind of like, the game's over. Fortunately, the players don't do that, because we got to stop, or we fouled a guy. We had a few really good fouls in this game where our big guys made sure they didn't finish, and their big guys missed free throws. That's what you need to do.
And every time they did it, I thought we were being foul trouble, and then I'd look up and it's like, oh, it's only his Broom's 3rd? Huh, yeah. Weird. Yeah.
So we did a great job of that. They missed 2 free throws. They leave the door open. You're down 6 with 40 seconds left. Wendell comes down. First of all, credit to Bruce for not intentionally fouling with a minute left, down 6. That is such a temptation, I think, sometimes for coaches. But in this kind of game, make Tennessee do something. And we did. They missed. Wendell comes down and just down 6. That's the right play. And that's the guy I want shooting it. So You're right. We don't necessarily want that to be our offense all the time.
You just got a couple different guys you could get the ball to. Jalen's been a pretty good 3 shooter in this team. Wendell, I would still be cool with the 3. The place he took it was not like any kind of, Alan Flanagan was into. He can hit a 3. I wanted to work around just a little bit and get a better shot, and he kind of took that long one. And it's a classic college basketball thing, honestly, that once they look for that 3, they are not going to pass up that 3, and they will take a stupid contested long 3.
No. Hang on. Let's just put ourselves in that spot. I agree with your point. I just want to make sure we walk through this and give some credit. Down 6 with 38 seconds left, you need a 3. You need a 3.
Well, yeah. I you know what I will give another credit for? Maybe that one I don't know if I give it as much credit for. I'm very much about get the 2s, go get 2s quickly.
But we did. Hang on.
And we did not want to say. No, that's what to say. I was going to give big credit that we did do that after we got it close.
So we get a 3. We call timeout. Great decision. Again, we save our time. That's why Bruce doesn't call timeouts. Get a timeout. Get set up. We forced 3 turnovers, and it took the refs the 3rd time to finally give us the dang ball. So just like that, you're down 6, you have the ball, and you're right. There's 31 seconds left at this point. And we drew up a play to get to the rim, and Jalen missed a reverse layup, and fortunately, Janai Broom tipped it in. You're down 1. Then we let it get in. We probably should have burned a timeout there, but we foul them like we should. And the great part, and the reason that first 3 is so important, is now you make Ziegler make 2 free throws. He did. So we did everything right in the last minute. Was my point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought the defense was great. It was the turnover that finally happened was Vescovi dribbling off his leg, and yeah, you're right. We got a 5-second on them, and then the timeout magically happened at the exact same time. Yeah, and the travel. You're right.
And they didn't call it.
They didn't call that either.
So
it was.
Let me just say
the biggest one. The biggest one I love though. The amount of boneheaded college basketball games I watch where you have like a full 30 seconds left and they desperately hunt for these long contested 3s to win the game. It frustrates. Oh, it's even worse. Like we were down 3. A lot of these teams we down 2 or 1 and desperately shooting contested NBA 3s when they're down 2-1. Just go drive the ball, and you're half the time in college basketball, the referee will blow the whistle if you just make a good faith effort at the rim. And so I loved that we went for the quick 2, even though there was a time I think we were down 6 that we really lollygagged. And I was like, oh my God, there's like a minute and 30 seconds left. Please go. And they waited like a full 30 seconds to get a shot that I think we missed. But there was some really good late game stuff. I do want to like mention that like there's a lot of people I think they're going to be debating online. Ben's like this. Me and Ben got the whole thing on texting, and I think Matt's going to be on his side on this. That a 3-point loss at number 2, I'm not quite as impressed when it was a desperate situation that got us back into that 3-point loss. It should and then on top of that, when it's 46-43, a 3-point loss is a little worse because it's such a low scoring game that it feels like you just miss one more 3 and it feels like a blowout because it's so hard to get a score in this game.
Hang on, I gotta go look at this because there was another. You can't just say it was the last minute and we clawed our way back because we were down 1 or 2. We had a chance.
That 4-point swing. You're at the 4-point swing with KD's foul and Vescovi was a big deal.
And before that, we had the ball down 2 with the ball with like 2 minutes left. So we got down 8. That was the biggest. We did a great job of staying connected. That's why we always talk about that second half system. We never let it get. It felt like it was going to. I was waiting.
When it was that low scoring, I felt like we were constantly trying to stay back in it. Don't let them go one more score from them, and we're done. So one less thing, we'd hit something, they would miss something. I mean, it was an exciting game. I'll give it to that. As much as it was low scoring and frustrating, it was exciting. If we pulled this off, it would be really cool. But man, it was tight most of the time. But even then, I kind of like multiply it when games are this low scoring, and it's like you're at 37 versus 45. All of a sudden, that feels like a 10-point difference, even though it's really 5 because it's so you can't score. So you just know how important it is. Another frustrating one I really thought at the end or the last like 6-7 minutes when the fouls started getting called that we could win this on the free throw line if we wanted to, that we clearly can't hit anything. They can't hit anything. If we can start getting the foul calls, driving the ball, we can win it on the free throw line. And we didn't get to the free throw line as often as I wanted. KD, is it time to talk about KD?
He did. He's the only guy he's the only guy on our roster who did what you wanted somebody to do.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with KD to me, it can be frustrating because he can go out there in a moment where everyone's just standing. We had a couple of possessions in a row where we looked lost, and it was just, oh no, are we just like going to give this game up with like 6 or 5 minutes left? And KD went out there and did some things. To me, though, the analogy I would use for KD's performance tonight is a firefighter that goes and lights a house on fire and then shows up 5 minutes later and puts the fire out and wants to be the hero.
Fair.
And so like you can point out that like 5-minute stretch where he got us in the game, kept us in the game, but he also had so many bad plays other than that. It's the reason we had to be in that situation. It just frustrates the mess out of me that he's still playing somewhat on offense, at least. Like he's the player from last year where we had more wiggle room too. It's cool. It was okay that he could be the wild man, the wild card. But man, if I see one more freaking three where he dribbles between his legs for 5 or 6 seconds and then takes the contested three when he's shooting, like he's got to be shooting 15, 16% from three this year. And in a game like this that was so low scoring and so important, and his little mistakes, his defensive lapses, his turnovers, his bad passes, they hurt so much more than usual. And so when he won that round, I was glad he made up for some of those bad mistakes. But it's been every game for the entire year. He giveth and taketh, but he's been takething like 80% of the time. Unlike last year where the wild card kind of worked out for us, that we needed that as like a padding, as a kind of like card you could throw down. This year, it's just been nothing but taketh.
You're right. I totally agree with you. Except today, I think this is 3 straight double-digit games for him. I could be wrong. That seems to come to mind. He was I totally agree with you on the threes. Okay. I'm done with it. He doesn't take the rhythm ones. We talked about it last year. It was weird. Sometimes
he can't hit open ones. It's so crazy.
He had a couple today. Now you're going to hate the 1 or 2 he took. He had a wide up one that he has to take. Like if we get an open look, KD's got to shoot a 3. Like
this is why I want to bench him though, because if you can't hit the open ones, and then now his contested crazy ones, he also can't seem to hit, then what's the purpose?
So
if he can't play, if he's not getting the steals he used to get, he can't finish the ball. He can get to the free throw line sometimes, but he's only shooting 70-something. 70-something%. It's not that bad from free throw line, really. But when that's the only thing he does, and you're going like 50,
Hang on. So he was 2 of 3 when he didn't go into the basket today. He made 2 of his 3 shots. A couple of them were tough. A couple of them were at big moments. He got to the line. He was 6 of 8. He only shot 6 times. Now, 2 of the 3s, I know one was the most open shot we had all day. He's got to shoot it. I don't care who's on the floor. They have to shoot that. But the other 2 were bad. So, and look, he fouled 2 3-point shooters. One time is because the Tennessee guy was a moving screen in the first half and knocked him into him. It was a terrible call. Should have gone the other way. He was fighting. It was an effort foul on the second one, and Vescovi sold it, which we didn't get the same call at our end 2 minutes later, which is very frustrating. But he can't foul Vescovi there. That's on him. He had 2 turnovers. Flanagan had 3. Wendell had 3. I just
the two threes they made were also both on KD, and it to say he gave up 2 threes doesn't sound that crazy. But in the game where they only made 2 threes and they were such a big deal, right? I was like, KD, be where you need to be.
Go look at the first one. I just challenge anybody.
He's trying to fight around a screen. I know, but I think he could have got there, and he was kind of off of it.
You can't get there when the guy is moving and then like that was okay. You can go watch it again because there's just no way. The second one's bad. We've cut it to a 2-point game. We didn't convert when we had a chance. Vescovi would have made the shot, obviously, but don't foul him. That's an extra point we give him. He was fighting through another screen that wasn't as moving, but it was the same action. And so look, the thing, and for all this hot take, let's get into this. Everybody who thinks they're so smart to bench KD Johnson, please tell me in the next 8 games we're going to have to play what your plan is to replace those 20 or 25 minutes, because I would love to hear it.
This is what I hate a little bit. Lior had a shot or 2 he could have hit, and he's so low volume that, any one of them, but he
got to the basket and whiffed a layup.
Yeah, he didn't hit his shot that he was supposed to make. So if he just hit 1 or 2 shots, I would have said, Lior's take those
enough,
minutes.
Jackson.
The issues, the shooting guards, we don't have shooters at shooting guard. KD can't shoot. Zep can't shoot. Or if he does shoot, he's just not shooting enough. Lior could shoot, but he's not athletic enough to make his own shot half the time. If he's open, he's going to hit the 3, unlike KD. which is the whole thing. The thing with KD that I think if I'm being on the KD, like the bench KD side, and you're on the other side, we get a little conversation about it, is that KD is a net negative overall. He lets other teams score more than like at least Lehor, if he goes 0 points and just plays good defense and gets some of those offensive rebounds he gets and some of those steals he gets, he's making those extra plays. We talk about KD making special plays my own can make. Lehor just keeps making little interesting plays, little offensive rebounds that you're surprised about, little steals that you appreciate.
We've got 6 of those guys, Jackson.
No, the big deal is just that we don't have a guy. KD, there's not really a replacement for KD, and it sucks. It's a recruiting issue that we didn't get somebody, or that KD did not develop the way we kind of thought it was, and it's really frustrating. Yeah. I mean, if you're just trying to experiment because you can't score 43, and you know that a big part of that is that your shooting guards can't do anything, so you're kind of getting desperate. And sure, it's a desperation move to think, let's shrink KD's minutes a little bit, but it's more, and I don't know what else to do. If I'm the coach, I wouldn't know what else to do to sit him down, just be like, can you, like, the potential's there. We know you can play well. We've seen you do it. Just stop doing stupid stuff. Stop taking those contested threes. Stop throwing the ball away. Stop turning the ball. Stop trying to do that little play where the other team rebounds your missed shot, and then you try to steal it back and get a foul on them every single time because it's just a frustration play. Someone else I heard call him bipolar, and that's so true. He can be so exciting when he does something good and so upset and frustrating fouls when he's doing something bad.
He really has calmed down. His play.
He has calmed down some because he's been so bad. So he has calmed down. I need him to calm down even more if he's going to play this badly.
And we're already playing Zep more than him some nights. I would love everybody. It's fun to like talk about, oh, he needs to be benched every time he makes a mistake. But I just got to tell you, on this team, there's a lot of guys that would. I know he's earned that reputation, and trust me, it drives me. You heard me last year. I was a very staunch anti-KD guy, but on this team, I just don't know if you put yourself in Coach Pearl's position. I mean, what are you doing?
What's the minutes looking like here? You got this pulled up. I'm seeing 25% from 3 from KD, and it's just going down. You know, that's got to be lower in SEC play. I don't know if we can find that, but if you look by minutes, I'm curious how much more Zep's playing than KD if he's playing anymore.
21-19. KD has 21.
I mean, it's just like, I know these are like splitting hairs kind of thing. Just play Zep 25 and play KD a little
sometimes. Less. You know? We do that.
On average, we have not.
Bruce is, well, he was a freaking starter to start the year, basically. He was like a 6th guy off the bench. Like, so Bruce is going to who he
tonight, KD 24. Zep Jasper 16. Some of that might be because he had a little streak there where he maybe stayed in an extra rotation because he was doing something no one else was doing. It's frustrating. I wish Zep would step up. I do think he can hit open threes. I don't know why he doesn't shoot more. I think we've seen why he doesn't drive more. It just did not work out to start the year. It's sad, but I mean, KD's drives, like, luckily he gets the calls sometimes, and it's frustrating that he can't be on like a window level hitting free throws, but not many people are. But when that's your only offense, it could be frustrating, man. There's not a good solution to this. You just know that right now, every time KD's out there for a long time, you're ultimately getting a detriment. But maybe that's just how it is.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's been mostly bad, but there are games, and he's done it. I mean, he's had games this year where he's been a huge help to winning games late. He still has that now. We were asking for this elevation from Flanagan. You remember a few weeks ago, we're like, we need somebody. Flanagan kind of stepped up, and he's been a lot more consistent. Still, even today, like, he's still playing better than he was a few weeks ago. But the reason I'm not benching KD out of anger mid-season is, please tell me. Let's look at this, Jackson. Look at the bottom 5 guys who didn't start tonight. Now, Cardwell didn't play. He was sick. Hopefully, he's fine for the next game. But look at that bench. And look at what they did today.
Very, very limited minutes for our bench guys here. 6 minutes for Trey Donaldson, 11 for Chris Moore, 8 for Johan, 8 for Lehor.
I don't care which one of those guys. Please tell me which one.
I'm playing more Lehor. I think Lehor's defense has been fantastic. Every time Lehor plays defense and they throw the ball to the guy thinks he's going to do something. He shuts him down every time and makes him pass. I was watching Lehor strongly. It's super interesting, and I do think it can be what he needs because he can hit an open 3 That's all I care about now with KD. Can you hit an open three? No, you're killing us without hitting these open threes. Let Lior hit an open three. If I'm arguing why, and it's not that I want KD completely out or benched and not playing anymore.
Well, that's
I just
what
want the
bench
minutes.
means. So
I want the minutes shrunk from 24. 24. Lior played 8. Shrink that up to like 14 and move Lior up a bit, move Zep up a bit, and say, hey, KD, you're coming in with Trey Donaldson and Johan and trying to cause some chaos. You're not a finisher like he was tonight.
We're already doing that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he's coming in with Trey, and that's what's happening.
Trey's playing 6 minutes. Johan played 8. Berman played 8. Zep played 16. KD played 24.
The only reason
that's
KD
a good
played
amount
24
more
is because he was better than Zep tonight on the offensive end. That's why he played more.
I still think he's a detriment at times. I think my analogy fits that he burnt the house down and then he burnt the house and then he sprayed it down with water afterwards. And we say, oh, he did okay.
It's like, a great analogy.
The burning would have never been there to begin with.
It's a great analogy.
Let's just keep the house alone. No fire in the house.
He's going to make 3 or 4 plays a game that drive you absolutely bananas. But I think I've accepted that.
Some of this is expectations too. We saw that KD can do things. He got picked second team SEC. Yeah, we even saw it as a piece today. And just be normal. It's like the meme where you're shaking the kid. Just be normal. Do normal stuff. Cut out the stupid stuff. And I wouldn't be frustrated. I'd be like, got some solid minutes out of KD. He did some things we couldn't. Like,
I got to tell you, I think part of the reason he's struggling this year is because he's playing more normal. I really do. I think there's and I'm not saying he should be crazy again because that doesn't fit what this team needs. And that's the problem. That's the fit you're talking about. Like
he was fun when he was a wild card on a team that had that like padding that if we go down 10 points or something, we always know Jabari and Walker could get us back in the game or do whatever. Or you could throw a wild card and see what happens. And we threw that wild card sometimes last year and it didn't matter because Jabari or Walker made up for it. And other times we threw the wild card down and KD did something special. And we were like, that's great. And it was just bonus. And now we need consistency and you can't bring it. And the Wild is like Wild and way less resources around him. You know what I'm saying? There's no more putbacks from Walker or him like driving and throwing out a 3 to Jabari. No one's there. It's just going to be him. And it's just not working out.
And I think sometimes we make a mistake where we call like, well, we threw a wild card. No, we didn't. KD earned finishers minutes last year to finish games because he kept making plays to win games. And it's not Bruce calling things. It's who, and my question would be, who is fearless? And look, Wendell Green, you can say he's short. He has issues against elite competition. We know that. We know it's kind of an up and down thing, but that dude's fearless. Okay. Like I think his attitude and he has earned that trust for me. KD's the only other guy, and maybe Janai Broom, that I feel that way about. And that is the resource that I hear what you're saying, limit his minutes. I just don't know what more we can ask for a guy who is that highly thought of. In season, we have flipped that on him where he is playing less, way less than he did last year already. So we're already doing it.
He's got that. We keep using a ton of analogies with him. He's just he's such a enigma of a player. We have to use these analogies. He's like a shark with blood in the water. There's something about it. During the rest of the game, he's not doing that great. But when he senses that blood, there's something in him that does do something. That in this part of this game, Wendell and Jalen, it got so frustrating. Flame too. They got lost at one point, man. It really felt like they didn't know what to do. They could not work the ball anywhere. It seemed like it was a part of the game where it could have went either way. And that's when KD sensed that blood and hit a couple shots and kept us in the game, which thank God, because it's just crazy that Wendell in his second year, Flan in his third or fourth year can't be that alpha guy that takes over a game when things get a little strange.
Wendell's that guy.
He can be. The issue usually his move is to try to hit that NBA 3 or go up in the trees and get blocked. But that's just, he's not a 5-star NBA guy.
Tell me what the options are. That's what I'm going to ask everybody who complains about this game. Please tell me what else. Look, we've known this. We've watched this team for years now. We know it's point guard heavy. We know we rely too much on the point guard, and when we don't have a great one. And Wendell's really good. I'm not saying he's not. He's a good player. But the ball's going to be in his hand all the time against bigger, more physical, tough team. He's a tough kid. By the way, can we talk about this? I've watched college basketball all year, and we have this obsession with looking at like technicals. He got literally destroyed on the head by their 7'1" guy going to the rim, got up, he was fine. Why are we not looking at that? I thought contact above the head and shoulder was
It
reviewable.
was a rough game, man.
He
It was.
smacked him on the top of his head. I thought that was
I feel like
ridiculous. They didn't
I feel
look
like
at
we've had a couple of those with Tennessee. You go to Knoxville, man, and it gets
they're
really
physical.
rough in there. Last year was like this too, and they just do not. You're right. They don't call the game like I think you should with how rough those games are. We like rough games, but it felt extra rough, man. Can we talk quickly about Alan Flanagan here?
Yep.
He had, his game has a little bit of analogy. The same with Wendell, some of these other guys. That my big picture thought before we got into this year was, we know we can beat the average teams. This team has the talent level to beat average and mediocre teams, and we've seen that. And it's been proven out. And some of the players you really point out for that is our small guards. Can they really go against larger guards? It's been not great so far. I think it's coming to fruition. That it's kind of what we thought. Even though it was great this game, they didn't feel like the guards got boomed necessarily. But Flanagan had a classic moment that made me think, man, yep, here we go. He looks so athletic and great against mediocre and average teams. Then you have him against a team like this, and he's taking another Flanagan charge, where it's like, oh, these guys are just a little faster and a little stronger, and you can't kind of out athletic these guys. You're going to have to outwork them. And if you look at the box score here, with a lower scoring game for everybody, luckily he still kept up to decent amount. 9 points, 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. If you projected that out to a regular scoring game, that's a decent, he's scoring in double digits, we're happy again or whatever. But you could definitely feel out there that this team had better athletes and he couldn't quite do what he usually does and just he's an athletic guy, big guy. That's why I was so happy for him, or so had such great expectations for him, because it's rare to be the size and speed he is and can finish at the rim and hit a shot. And so tonight, when he couldn't quite do that because there's people like him on the other side, it just kind of confirms yep, when you go against an elite team, hey, I'm in the number 2 team in the nation. You can't quite do that. I'm a little faster, I'm a little bigger situation.
Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway. He's playing better. I thought he played, again, everybody played their tail off defensively. I mean, I don't have any, you can argue Katie's foul there, but other than that, and I think we had one miscommunication where we left a guy wide open. That's it. I mean, I thought everybody busted their tails. Flanagan is part of that on the perimeter. He did a great job. He pulled down 8 rebounds. I thought he was physical. Again, when you watch a game like this, and I didn't get to say this earlier, the adjustment is not, you wanted to go faster and go downhill and get, I just want us to take shots, not turn it over, not wait till the last. When you get a decent look, you've got to take it, and somebody has to create. And Wendell tried to do that some, but Flanagan, to his credit, hit a tough 3. All 3 of our threes tonight were just tough ones. Again, that speaks to their defense a little bit. But I saw some good things from him. You're right, though. And for everybody playing Tennessee, I know we only scored 43. They are in historic college basketball points against territory. I've been very proud of Auburn's defense this year in the half court. I think we're a really good team. And I think hopefully people see why I believe that we can do this. We can do this kind of game. But Tennessee is on another level. And I think that showed against Flanagan, all of our guys, honestly, on that end.
This might be late in the podcast for some people, but I do want to talk about that final possession with Wendell getting fouled from the 3.
Yep.
This is my big take on it. He was fouled for sure, a hard foul, bad call. A lot of people are coming out saying how bad that call was. My big take is we didn't go to a national championship.
Correct.
Because Samir Dowdy had this really weak foul.
It wasn't nearly as bad as this.
No. And it kills me on the internet. If you're on Reddit or in these places, you can't say certain things with everything has to be black and white or you get roasted, and it's super frustrating because everyone's talking about that double dribble against Virginia. I was at the game, sure, I was super far away up in the upper deck. No one there knew there was a double dribble, really. It was after the game that we figured out there was a double dribble there, at least a couple minutes or seconds afterwards that we figured that out, that, it could have been a double dribble. We kind of thought that got tipped or something. The one that frustrated the hell out of me was that it's the final 4 in the final minute. If you're going to shoot a 3 at the end of the game down 3, there better be a lot of contact to blow that whistle. Do not put it on the ref to finish that game. And that's usually what happens. And tonight, we didn't get that call. And honestly, 50% of the time that call's not gonna happen. This one was a lot more egregious. I think this one was like, even the Final Four, even after you got to call this one. You can't tackle the guy at the end of the play. But that's because these refs are so used to not calling plays that are kind of a little iffy at the end because they want the players to win the game. And I'm cool with that. It's so frustrating that we didn't go to national championship because not even a contact foul, like space foul, because you have to let the guy land. And Samir didn't let him land quite right, but it was like barely there. Wendell got hit in the chest and couldn't land. And then we don't get the call. It's like, but that happens, guys. Don't blow the whistle on the Final Four like that. You can't bring it up on the internet. It was a foul. You know that's a foul, right? I'm like, I get that. And like, there's a foul on every single freaking play. Don't call that one at the end of the game. But Wendell got tackled.
Couple things. Obviously, we're down 3. Wendell would have had to go hit 3 free throws, and he missed 2. He was 3 for 5.
80% on the year, though.
On the road, he's our best free throw shooter, but it's no guarantee that he's going to make 3. So let's not I think people are going to focus too much on it. We had 16 seconds. We had no timeout, so you can't really do anything with Bruce. Had to use those timeouts, during that. We had to burn one because we couldn't get the ball inbounds. So we had to do something. Wendell, credit to him, he went and got the ball. And you're right. You've got to let the guy land. And not only that, he was right there. I mean, he was straight up, but again,
he hit his chest. He hit him
high, and he didn't let him land. And here's the worst part to me. Okay, I get it. As somebody who watched that Final Four game, I don't like calling that at the end of regulation. I just don't. But the thing that makes me mad is they called the flop on Wendell when he literally got hit on the arm. That's not even a landing thing. That he got hit. He probably felt the contact, and so that's basketball. So in this,
that one, I say, if you think he's flopping or you don't think he got touched, just let it go. Don't blow the whistle. Right. Don't call a flop on that one. A flop is that you better have some real justification for a flop on that one. That didn't he? So you can't call that when he actually touched his hand. And you can say, yeah, maybe he embellished it or whatever. But if he touched his hand, you can't call a flop technical where you give him a point. You just don't blow the whistle if you think he overdid it.
And if we're gonna, it drives me nuts. I'm glad they're not doing as many reviews and stuff. But if we're gonna have a technical with a free throw, if you think it was a flop, can we not take 10 seconds and make sure that there was no contact and that I just felt like, now that doesn't lose you the game. But for me, the frustration was that play in combination with, missed moving screen on one of their threes in combination with the, with that flop. I don't like all of it. And it's
and then Vescovi flopped on top of that. They're like KD, yes. I'm pretty sure he didn't even touch. It was like a landing foul situation where maybe it could have been a foul. But man, that guy flopped super hard on that. And that one didn't get called when he'd already called Wendell before. And then you don't call an actual bodied up foul, which if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm saying, how would you get that? Why would the shot Wendell was taking was I hated that we didn't. And that's just college basketball. The amount of games I've seen at the end, I want to get mad that that's the shot we ended up with at the end of the game. I think we had 16 seconds to get a better shot than that. Yeah. But man, that's just college basketball. It happens all the time. So that if I'm the other way around, I'm like, don't even get close to that guy. He's shooting beyond NBA range 3 to try to win this game. You're going to get that close to him. Even if you think it's not a foul or something, don't even get that close. Put your hand in his face, but don't body him. That's just, it's insane. Just stupid play.
And honestly, that's probably part of why we didn't get the whistle. Was because of how we talk about a lot. It shouldn't be like this, but it just is. When you drive in, if you don't look like you belong driving, you're not going to get as many calls.
If you're throwing a circus shot like KD is half the time, KD's lucky half the time to get the calls because he's throwing some circus stuff. KD does this other interesting thing, which I feel like is pretty, maybe other players do this, and I don't watch enough college basketball or something. KD does this suplex thing where he sticks his chest way out to get that contact. And because it's chest to chest, he gets the call all the time. Which I think is so funny when it would be another player would probably go the other way around and not get that call. And it's just a trademark KD move, but I don't know. I just had to bring that up how crazy it is that he always goes chest on top of the defender and that somehow gets the foul call half the time.
Yeah, he's a mess. Very frustrating, but I think we've done a good job of not, if you're an Auburn fan, that's really, it's a little triggering from our past, like Jackson just really eloquently talked about. Frustrating. And just to add, not only would Wendell have had to make 3 free throws, if we go to overtime, we have to beat them in Knoxville in overtime when it's 0-0. So, it doesn't necessarily win us the game. I'm really proud that in a game where we played this poorly and we shot this poorly, that Tennessee team, I don't care what you think about them, they might flame out hopefully in March like they do. I hope they do. I love that. I'm very proud. I think, I don't know. Here's a good question. I want to talk about two more players, but here's a good question for you. I think it's definitely the best performance of the year for us. It is. I don't know how you could look at our schedule and not think that. But do you think it is? Do you think it's our best? No.
I think we had a situation where we were playing a bunch of bad teams, but we beat them like a good team would beat those teams. So all those games through that stretch where we were away at South Carolina, away at LSU, playing at Ole Miss, I think those were our best performances, playing like a good team would against a mediocre team. I think tonight, that's part of my frustration a little bit. If we had lost this game 72-69, and we had some of our players that we need to step up, and maybe some younger players show us something we didn't know they had, something that we could grow on, I'd feel a little better. The fact that it was all the things we were afraid this team would be bad at is what happened tonight. We didn't have guys step up on offense. This game was clearly like I said, I think it's maybe 75-25. 75% was great defense. 25% was two teams that did not do well on offense. This should have been, even with 10 out of 10 defenses, this game should have been high 50s, low 60s.
Yep.
Even if the teams were this good.
And
they will be. More shots.
And the thing people need to remember, when we host them in a few weeks, it will be. This game won't happen again.
Yeah, it was just the reason I was kind of trying to say that it wasn't our best performance, because I think Tennessee gave us a shot to win this game. They hit us with 10 out of 10 defense, but they gave us our kind of like bullseye to hit. And we didn't hit it because they played bad offense on top of our really good defense, and we couldn't take advantage of it. And that's why I can't say it's one of our best games.
Okay, that's fair. I think we can't rant and rave about KD's minutes and then like the fouls and the thing. I guess I know Tennessee didn't play well, and they would say they just missed a lot of shots and just didn't play up to their standard. But what's our best win? This is encouraging. I don't care how it happened. It showed me that we can, on any given day, we can hang with one of the best teams in the country. I don't like Tennessee, but I'm willing to acknowledge they're one of the top 10 teams in America, and I have not seen us really come close to feeling like we could beat a team like that this year.
It had a good statement for your view of this team, that we're going to be in rock fights, and we're going to play great defense and try to keep things close and try to pull some wins off. And that's what happened tonight. We played great defense, and you wanted them locked in. And we've had some heated discussions about if the defense is really that great on this team, and how we keep up giving points up in the paint and not giving rebounds, and having mediocre teams, not mediocre, but not great teams like Georgia and Texas A&M roast us at times. So you're right. The fact that we went in there and didn't get roasted away and only scored 43, this is your defensive magnum opus of see, this team's defense is so good that even when the offense is that bad, we could still be in games. And I hope that's how it is the rest of the year.
Not just in games. We almost went on the road to a top 5 team and won, which 3 or 4 weeks ago, I believe we said that we might not win a road game. So I just want to, I have a lot of respect for Tennessee. I think they're really good. I think they're a good team, and I don't think we should, it was frustrating. It's hard to watch. I know people don't like watching this team as much as I do. This is kind of a team that I, as a defensive guy, I like a lot of the things I'm watching, and I know a lot of people don't. Here's my concern, Jackson. We're 20-something games into this season, and I don't know, what was the fun win that our players got to enjoy? Was it Arkansas?
That Arkansas, I guess, at home. That was good.
I mean, we've won a lot. We won all our home.
Hey, to turn the corner a bit into the future, Alabama coming in next Saturday with College game day in town. That's going to be the big moment. If we can't pull something off there, which is a big, I hate that we have to put the pressure on that one, because we have not pulled off anything else the rest of the year. We have to get a big win at some point.
Yes.
We can't go the rest of the year losing to Alabama twice and Tennessee twice and Kentucky and Lexington.
Yep.
And we will be petering barely into March Madness if we're in it. Yeah, with a not fun team that does not mesh well, probably. We need to pull something off of one of those five. If we even get one of the five, Alabama at home, Tennessee at home, like Kentucky and Lexington, one of those three, at least we'll have something to point to this year. As man, hey, don't forget, like, remember that team that, hey, they beat Tennessee at home with that, blah, blah, or hey, we finally broke the Lexington streak, or hey, we got Alabama when they were having such a great year at home. It was really fun with college game. We just have to pull off one. I'm hoping and dreaming we pull off two, but we'll see. I don't know if we could put that on there yet.
And that's why today hurts. It was an opportunity. We put ourselves in position. We played the kind of game we need to play to have a chance. I do still believe, I know it's been ugly. I know the A&M game hurt, the Georgia game hurt. Those were single-digit games coming down the stretch. Like, we're not getting blown out. I know it feels like it, but we're not getting blown out.
And that's why those Georgia and Texas A&M games hurt too, because it's like there's some really tough games coming up. You shouldn't expect really to win any of these necessarily, but we could have been that team that won all the games it was supposed to. And then we could have felt good that, like, hey, yeah, man, we didn't have the elite talent, but hey, they were locked in. The vets won the games they were supposed to, and they didn't with Texas A&M and Georgia. And that's what is so frustrating about the team. And then the eye test too at times. I think that's a big thing. It's hard on the stat sheet to talk about it and hard to articulate it sometimes. But the eye test just says, like, man, it's not great out there. It's rock fights. It's bad basketball, honestly. And so that's why it's hard, why you don't feel quite the same excitement for this team. I mean, part it's because you're losing, but it's because it's just hard to watch. It's not pretty basketball. It's not like Missouri over there is playing like high octane offense, and they're not winning a ton of games either, but people are having fun with it. Mm-hmm. You know, it feels like you pull upset off, and you can pull it upset, this team too. It's just going to be dirty, low down, not necessarily like good for the sport of basketball games like tonight.
And the fear is, I'm glad we're putting ourselves, I'm glad we came back from down 19 or 18 against West Virginia and gave ourselves a chance. I'm glad we went to Knoxville and gave ourselves a chance against a team that's really good. But part of the reason you want to put yourself in those positions is to get a couple. And my fear is, this is a team that's won a lot. It's the winningest team in the last 5 years, still is, by the way, even after today. So they've won a lot. How do we handle not getting that? This is going to hurt. Like the effort that our guys put into this game, they went in there believing they could win, and they just didn't quite get it done. Can Bruce keep he said on the I listened to the radio show. I need to start doing that. Really good tidbits of stuff with Brad Law and Andy Burcham. If you're 30 minutes before the game, that's all they do. And Bruce had an interview, and he was saying, look, we're going to be underdogs in 6 of our next 9. I mean, and that's just the reality. So, and I would say the 2 against Tennessee, the 2 against Alabama, at A&M, and at Kentucky. And then the other 3 are Missouri at home, who's tough, Ole Miss at home, and at Vanderbilt. So it would do a lot for us and my heartburn levels going into March if we could get 1 or 2 of those 6. We missed an opportunity today, and it hurts, but I don't think we've mentioned this on the pod yet. KenPom is one of the most respected metrics for tournament seeding and stuff. We went up 4 spots by losing today. That's how much respect there is going to be for that score and where we played and how we played.
I have my fingers crossed on the screen right now. Don't fall out of the top 25. We're number 25 right now.
We're out.
We lost by 3 at number 2. I'm just hoping we don't fall out. We're probably out.
We're out.
I can't believe we didn't say this earlier. I meant to say it earlier. We tweeted about it. But next Saturday is the Outlive basketball game. Every year we do a charity game against cancer. It's called Auburn Basketball Fight Against Cancer, AUT Live. It's a big thing. I believe Bruce Pearl was doing it at Tennessee before this. There's been some cool moments with the AUT Live situation. I think last year they did it for a really big game, and everyone in the crowd held up a placard with a person in their life that was impacted by cancer. I think everyone listening through this podcast right now has had someone in their life impacted by cancer, and it's cool that they do this big charity. Their big thing is selling these T-shirts every year. Well, their big game is against Bama. It's going to be huge. We're hoping for a Pearlville camp out tent situation. I think personally that's fun. If I was a student, I'd be doing it. I don't care how good the basketball team is or how much I care about that game. It's just cool to camp out on campus with all your friends on a Friday night. So get out there and do it. But go and buy these T-shirts. Coach Pruitt text us about us, tell us, let everybody know. It's a big deal. You don't want to be at the game. If you're going to buy the expensive ticket, camp out for the expensive game, get the T-shirt to complete the set of your big day out there at the Auburn basketball game. They're only $25. for a shirt. They're on the website at pearlfoundation.org. Check it out. Cool experience. I don't know if you remember any of this stuff before, but I just want to put that out there.
Outlive's how you say that. They started at Tennessee with Chris Lofton. A lot of people know his story at Tennessee. One of Bruce's players, one of the best players in Tennessee history, probably. Had cancer, beat it. And the amount of stuff, if you pay attention on social media, all that money goes directly to help local cancer patients and with the expenses that come with fighting cancer. And Bruce is great about sending videos to families and just encouraging people. It's one of the cool things about having him as our coach.
And we need a little extra help this year in the charity, because there's a part of the charity where it looks like the Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate Foundation gives money for every 3 we hit. We've hit 127 threes this year. Not great. Not as good as usual. So they're going to need your help with these t-shirts to make up for our crappy 3 shooting.
Great point. That's a good, I'm glad you mentioned that. We mentioned it last episode too. So as we shift, that's a tough loss today. I think we showed ourselves pretty well in a tough environment. One of the things Bruce said was he didn't think our guys were impacted by the environment at all. And I agree. I think we played, you can say the missed shots maybe, but I thought we played well on the road against a really quality team. So now we got to go to College Station, the team that beat us at home. They are not as good as what they showed. Well, Tyrese Radford won them that game. That was one of the most single-handed performances I've ever seen. They are playing Georgia right now. We don't know as we record what's going to happen with them. But if A&M loses, we'll have the same conference record as them. It's a huge game. It's another road game. So we got to fly from Knoxville. I'm sure they're going home tonight, but then back to Texas on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it is.
We'll see. We talk about, you guys have been on the podcast for some of these guards. We don't have to get super deep into this. I have a whole thing about how I think our guards are getting shot on top of because they're short. And I think coaches are telling them, shoot even if you're covered, because you will rise up above these guards. I took screenshots. There's a whole thing. We got a whole argument on the text about Matt disagrees. We got in a whole big thing about it. I think our guards are getting shot on top of tonight. They didn't shoot well. So I'm curious if it continues. I'll see if, some of these 2 and 3 guards can just blow by us some more and shoot over us. I'm curious.
Yeah, we've got to do a better job on Radford. It was really encouraging. I texted y'all before this game. Vescovi's the key. If you talk to Tennessee fans, when Vescovi's quiet, they are not that good offensively. And not just that he missed shots. He only shot the ball 7 times. And Vescovi's not a tall guard. I get that that would be your point probably. But really encouraged by how well we scouted their best players and how we attacked them today. We have this A&M game. I know people aren't going to put it in the same category as the Alabama games, the Kentucky game on the road, Tennessee at home, but this is one that would really help us. I think A&M's a tournament team. I was really impressed with them. And if we can do a better job on Radford and hope that he doesn't fly by everybody and hit tons of threes, I think we've got a real good chance to go in there and win.
I'm looking at the SEC standings right now, and it hurts. The SEC standings hurt right now. Alabama 10-0, Tennessee 8-2, Texas A&M 7-2, tied for second. We'll see what the game with Georgia is tonight. We're at 7-3. Kentucky's at 6-3. Florida's at 6-3, so they could be tied with us too. Kentucky, who's started the year so badly, everybody's joking on, has the same record as us, or probably will at the end of the night.
They host Florida tonight, by the way. That's
so one of them will have to lose. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at our schedule and I was thinking, man, there's a lot of comparisons of this Alabama team to what Auburn did last year. Which, hey, man, they're always trailing behind us. At least that's something. I was hoping they wouldn't do anything afterwards. We could just keep building. So I looked at our schedule, said 10-0 for Alabama. And I hope they kind of have a little falling apart like we did last year. People figure us out. I've looked at their schedule and I'm like, dang, I do not see a lot of losses on that schedule.
Nope.
And so I looked at ours to see, like, all right, they start 10-0. Did we start 10-0? Did we start our downfall before or after? We started 10-0. The next game was Arkansas. That was our first loss after starting 10-0. So frustrating. They're probably going to get 11-0, 12-0, whatever. But we at 10-0 felt like that was a pretty deep, we would really have to fall apart to not win the SEC. And I think Alabama is going to feel the same way. Huh. It's just get your heads ready that unless they have something happen, they're probably going to win the SEC regular season.
Probably. They have to go to Knoxville, but they only play them once. So that'll be the big game if Tennessee can stay close enough. Now they're 2 games behind, so they need help. Auburn is I hate to say it, but we're one of the only teams I think that has a chance to help trip them up.
I think in Pearlville, in Neville Arena, we got a good chance.
Oof,
But
so.
that's just a good chance, not we expect to win or anything. I think it's just going to be a good game, and then we have to go away and like so you have to. And then Tennessee can't lose any more games. They'd have to beat Tennessee. Tennessee would have to beat Alabama at home. We'd have to beat them at home. Then that would just tie them up. So, and not that I want Tennessee to win the SEC either, but it's better than Bama.
So, I mean, again, if you're looking for encouraging signs, right? Tennessee, we showed today that they were beatable. They lost to Florida this week. That Florida team's really come on. I think we downplayed that early win against them at that time because it felt so ugly, but that was a really good win for us to get.
And Alabama got wrecked by Oklahoma.
Well,
I don't know if you guys got to talk about that or not. And they
did.
almost got beat by Mississippi State. So people, they can lose down the stretch. It's just they bounce back super hard against another team. And it's just, man, you got to Mississippi State. You got to get them when you can get them. So just suck they didn't pull it off. And it was an SEC loss. I remember like looking at Tennessee and Alabama both lost the same week. I was like, oh man, so if we beat Tennessee, we'd actually be like tied up or whatever. It's like, no, Alabama's loss wasn't an SEC loss.
Well, and just get ready because, well, I just want to echo that first of all because Mississippi State not very good. Had them beat in Tuscaloosa. They get blown out at Oklahoma, and today they were up 2 at LSU with 13 minutes left in the game. So LSU was in that game. And LSU is they're 1-9 in the league. So Alabama is looking more human, which you figure would happen.
You just got to hope it's like us last year where we had those amazing players, but teams just started scouting for us and figuring us out. And we started becoming their Super Bowls. You saw what happened with Arkansas. We always so close to winning that game at Arkansas. And that was the biggest game they've played in 20 years. People were talking about they were back in the 90s again. And oh my God, it's like there's going to start being hope. The problem is there's not a lot of other great games left on there, but they're going to get our best shot next Saturday. Yes. They're going to get Tennessee's best shot in a long time. I think that game's going to be huge for Tennessee and Alabama, just as big. They're going to have to play that against us. They're going to have to get up for our game in Neville Arena as high as we get with College Game Day and Purple on it, and then do it again in Knoxville when they go play Tennessee. So it's tough to get up like that. So you just hope that people have figured some things out with Alabama the way people figured us out, but we'll see.
Yeah. It would be a massive, and again, one of the reasons I love Bruce Pearl being our coach. Oh, you're right. Those are the 2 next games. So they host Florida, who is shown. Florida just beat Tennessee. They might beat Kentucky tonight.
Oh, I'm looking at this now. They got to play at Florida. No, Florida's at Tennessee. Sorry, or at Alabama.
Florida, but the next 3 are home Florida, at Auburn, at Tennessee. So
that's very good. Hey, Mississippi State should. We'll see. Maybe we next podcast will be changing our tune.
And their last 3, not as hard as our last 3, but Arkansas, who is quietly winning now. They're kind of getting their act together. Arkansas at home, Auburn at home, at A&M. That's 3 of the top half teams.
It could be like ours last year, where they come to Neville and where they're Arkansas and Tennessee is their Tennessee, and then they like kind of struggle, but they beat Texas A&M away by a couple points and they secure it. Yeah,
well, it's going to take something for them to not win it. I mean, we barely hung on for the whole thing. So.
Can I say some stuff about coming up with this Alabama? I know we have Texas A&M in between also, and that's going to really suck if we lose Tennessee, then lose to Texas A&M. That's why we had to get these wins in when we could, because it's going to get really tough. Hopefully we can bounce back against Texas A&M. Camp out for Pearlville. It's such a cool thing. I wish they could have done that when I was in school. I wish there was that kind of like people cared that much. I know you got up super early for a game in Beard Eves one time, but there just was not that atmosphere for Auburn. So if you have a chance, I hope they're pushing that out there. I'm not getting the feeling that they're pushing out there with College Game Day and all that. Even if you think this team's going to lose by 20 or something, Bama, it's just fun to go out there and camp on campus with all your friends and stuff. The other part, if we do pull off the win against Alabama, don't rush the court. They're not worth rushing the court for. I know that's way ahead of the game. I just want to set that out there. Don't rush the court against Alabama. We should expect to beat Alabama, even if they're really ranked really well this year. Matt's looking at his face weird.
I just don't know. I would think it wouldn't happen, but
kids want to rush the court. And I do say this in another sport. I got to do it. Yep. And then I said, well, that's because we had a very, very special moment. And that's why we did it. We're one of those teams and the other sport that's above doing that kind of stuff or whatever. But then, man, hey, when your big brother's done it, your big sister did it, you get a chance to do it. I can't blame people for wanting to do it and have a good time. I don't want to poo-poo their thing. But for Bama, don't give them that credit, at least not in basketball.
Well, here's the concern. So, and I don't know if you know this. So, Alabama, they lost last week, but they were still what? Were they number 2 still or 3 in the AP poll? Well, Purdue lost today at Indiana. But Alabama just lost at unranked Oklahoma last week. I know that was in the last poll.
Let's look at the top 25. We got time. I don't have anything else to do tonight.
I'm a little nervous about
they can't put them number 1 after losing by 30 at Oklahoma.
I know, but
they were getting so much hype before that game too, though, that they were just the best thing.
And didn't they kill Vanderbilt this week by like 50?
Yeah, but
yeah.
No, it's not that big. The bigger deal, and they should have lost by more.
There were 4.
In AP, good.
Tennessee lost to Florida.
We'll see so you got Houston still in front of them, so that's good. And then who else is around them? They're playing at Temple. They lost to Temple at home, I believe, just a couple games ago, and that was their loss.
Come on.
It's taking forever to pull it up, but Houston's there. Tennessee will fall back, probably back behind Alabama. No, they won't, because Tennessee won. So why would Alabama jump Tennessee?
Tennessee lost on Wednesday, midweek.
Oh, yeah. Well, they both did. So
no, Alabama lost last week. Alabama's loss was on last week's poll.
Are you sure? The Oklahoma loss? Oh, that's why they're number 4, isn't it?
They're number 4. So they beat Houston beat Wichita State, but they lost to Temple in their last game, and then they play Temple tonight, right? Tomorrow. They play Temple tomorrow.
Oh, man, why are they playing these Sunday games? Same thing with last time. That's when they lost to Temple, was on a Sunday, which I guess that's great. I love the more college basketball I can watch.
Big Ten and other conferences play on Sunday a lot.
Arizona has moved up there. Who else is next down there? Virginia lost, I believe.
Our friends.
Kansas State lost at some point, I think, to
Kansas lost today.
Just got to cross your fingers. They can't pull it off or somebody beats them, but hey, it's not looking great. The SEC's down this year. That's what I'm saying. They're just taking advantage of a down SEC. Damn, we found 10 spots. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably going to fall out.
Missouri lost, though. They were behind us. Yeah, it'll be interesting. North Carolina lost. Anyway.
Just be another one of those where we finally break a record and then immediately lose it.
Well, but I'm glad we had that make history moment. But make no mistake, look, we swept Alabama last year. We swept Georgia last year. I don't want people to forget that. That matters. We did lose to Tennessee in our one game last year against them. It would mean and I'm glad you focused on that. Auburn is going to be if that's not just a college basketball game of the year scene, then we have really messed up, because it is probably one of our best opportunities to get a win like that, to prove we belong. We kind of did it today, but we couldn't quite kick the door down at home. That Alabama team, I meant to say this about Pearl. One of my favorite things about Pearl, we forget now that he's won so much. Even when we were losing, he is such a good coach to have in these moments. When you are outmanned and outgunned and you don't know how we're going to do it, he has built his entire career around coming through in those moments. Not all the time when he doesn't have the talent, but he is a dangerous motivator and coach. Our staff is very dangerous. So, and I think Alabama knows that. I think you're right to give us some respect that's going to be a tough game for Alabama, and everybody needs to do their part. We need a moment. I think this team needs a moment. We almost got it today, that brings us together, reminds us that we can beat anybody, even with our broken little team. We are dangerous, and we need to feel dangerous. And what better way than to give them their first conference loss, keep them away from a number 1 ranking, hopefully build our own resume. We're still not in. I need people to understand, we are not in the tournament. We got to win more games.
I could see a situation coming down the stretch where there's some arguments from other teams that are on the bubble being like, who is Auburn beat? Yep. Auburn hasn't beat anybody in the top 100 or something like that. And all of a sudden, man, especially with our own, we love Auburn. We think Auburn's really cemented itself more in that basketball place. But man, to a lot of people out there outside of the South and everything, they're still nah, Auburn ain't it. Auburn ain't. I'm moving Auburn out for Creighton or one of these other teams that has a little more of a basketball cachet, especially some of these guys that cover basketball. That's all they cover. I feel like they resent a little bit a school that's not traditionally basketball. They rather give a mid-major a little more, the Wichita State's a little bit hey, to be fair, they care more. They have cared more historically. So
yeah, I mean, our best wins are Northwestern is probably a tournament team. They're playing really well. I don't know how St. Louis is doing, but I think that's a good win. Washington is really bad. Florida's a good win.
I can't believe we waited this long. And I hate this. It's going to be such a long lost podcast because people just do not listen to our lost podcast anywhere near as much as our win podcast. Recruiting. No one covers Auburn basketball recruiting, and we should be the ones that are covering it if no one else is going to cover it. Who did we get this last week? LeBaron Philon, right?
Yes. Some combination of that name. Yes.
Yes. LeBaron, I believe is, and I can't remember his last, I'm pretty sure that's his last name. Can you tell me anything about him? Four-star guy, right?
Top player in Alabama. First top player in Alabama to sign with Auburn since D'Angelo Purifoy. Now,
shout out D'Angelo. Everybody loves him. Never did anything wrong. Not a super irritating player or anything.
But there's some good players if you go back through the years, and I don't think Jackson agrees with me or maybe understands how hard it has been for every Auburn basketball coach, no matter how bad Alabama is, to get top players out of here. If you go way back, DeMarcus Cousins was from Alabama. He ended up at Kentucky. There was another 5-star kid that ended up going to LSU and Will Wade's thing.
There was a kid, Adam Montgomery, that ended up going somewhere. There was a 5-star guy that wasn't, I think he went to Alabama. Yeah. Adam Montgomery, Alabama. That should be our backyard.
They've always gotten those guys. So this is, and honestly, Justin Hokanson on On3, he's been around the Auburn beat a while. He one of his sources said when we got that commitment, that's probably the first time we've really gone head to head with Alabama with somebody they really wanted and we got them, which I don't know if people really think that way because of how well Bruce and this staff have gone around some of those things. Like we've gone to Georgia, we've gone, regionally a little bit. We've gotten some JUCO guys. We've been creative with the transfer portal and everything, but this is a big win. And not only that, Pettiford is the 5-star point guard. Now, both of those guys are rated as point guards. Pettiford's your classic 6 foot, 160-pound Bruce Pearl, next in line point guard. And then LeBaron is 6'4". He's taller. He'll probably play off like the 2-guard kind of position. And they will be not on the team next year, but they will start in the fall of 24. So, a year and a half from now, they will be playing for Auburn.
Yeah, I was trying to look up what our recruiting looks like right now. I'll try to keep you guys updated. I just feel like we do not get the coverage we deserve in Auburn basketball recruiting, especially we got into a huge argument on texting. We'll do an off-season show about our recruiting and where we're concentrating and what needs to happen. But yeah, next year that'll play on our team next year. We have one recruit, 4-star, Aiden Holloway, a point guard, 6 feet tall.
5-star on ESPN.
5-star on ESPN. We we seem to be thriving in point guard recruiting right now. The classic Bruce is the short point guard guy with Sharif Cooper, with Scoot Henderson we missed out on. Jared Harper. I think I'm missing somebody else. It was a big short point guard recruit, but that seems to be a thing. These short point guards know that Bruce is going to let them play and could potentially put them in the pros. Aiden Holloway is the only recruit we have in high school right now. I know you mentioned Chance or something Yates, right? Wesley
Yates is currently he's signed for next year with Washington, but their staff will be fired at the end of the year, it looks like, and he has a connection on that staff, which is what he chose Washington over Auburn, which is a little weird. We know how weird some of these.
He's from Texas, so it's doubly weird that he has us on one side of the country, Washington on another. So it's not like he's staying close to home or something. So that's somebody to watch. I'm just talking about like any recruiting in general. LeBaron and Pettiford that you just mentioned, 2 years from now. So it's going to be a bit before you see those guys. But if we'll see, things change so quickly. Well, but LeBaron Philon is 6'4" point guard. So if you're worried about our short guards, at least we do have a guard coming in 2 years. It's taller. Hopefully there's a lot that's going to happen in between then. But the other one, Pettiford's a 6'1" point guard from Jersey City. Philon's from Mobile, Alabama. And he's the number one guy in Alabama, like you mentioned. We don't always have a lot of great talent coming out of the state. That's why we've thrived in Atlanta, and it's been a big deal. And we really don't even concentrate on Alabama super hard necessarily, but you still want to pull these guys. Number 1 Alabama, number 5 point guard in the nation, number 40 overall in the nation, just in players. So just some context on this guy.
And the thing we need to talk about, and the thing our argument was about the other day.
We don't have to get super into it. We got deep in this argument.
No, we're not going to go deep.
The future of recruiting at all.
I'm sick of us. I hate what the star thing has done for people. Like we pretend like all these rankings are like totally accurate. They're good. I'm not saying they're bad or worthless. They do show you a story. But, all three of those guys are borderline 5-star players. And I think just when you look and I don't know how people think about it, but if you're a top 30, top 40 player nationally, and we've got 3 of those guys like either signed and playing next year or committed for 2 years from now, I don't care if he's a 4-star and he's a guard and he's shorter. Like I think we need to not be so 4-stars are not created equal. Okay. We've seen it this year, but Chance and Johan, right? Like, whoa, those were top 40 recruits nationally. It doesn't always work out, but I'll tell you what, I'd much rather be living in that 4 or 5-star kind of middle ground there than Jalen Williams is a really nice player. By the way, before we end this podcast, I need to rant about Jalen because I didn't do that.
We have gotten so long on a podcast that we'll see if half the people listen to.
I don't care. But you know my point. Jalen was like 100th ranked player in the nation, and he's a 4-star. He's good, raw, but like there is a big difference between the top end of that and the bottom end. Great example, another 2024 guy. We have that big guy, Peyton Marshall, who's like a 300-pounder, like this massive kid. It's going to be really interesting to see how Bruce uses him. We've clearly shown a little more the last couple of years using big guys effectively. So all 4-stars, but
we have him in the class. We have him in the class already.
He's 24.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 24 is stacking up a little bit. But then again, we've seen some classes we thought were going to be big classes and didn't work out. At least these guys are already committed. So.
Yep. 23, it's obviously going to be a big portal year for us. And maybe we get a Wesley Yates or somebody like that. But we've talked about Bruce has been uber loyal, and we'll have that debate continually about how loyal he needs to be. But there's not many guys who have to leave this team. We think a lot of guys will. But
I think some of these star situations you're talking about comes down a little bit to twofold, that 24/7 and all these recruiting sites do not probably have the same resources they have in other sports for basketball. As much as we love basketball and think it should be covered super hard, even on the sites themselves, they're not going to be covered as hard. And then even worse, we're a fan podcast. I'm sorry, I don't want to upset anybody, but sometimes our beat writers and the Auburn media sphere does not cover Auburn basketball recruiting very well. I think half of that's because they're not confident in doing it, and half of it's because they concentrate on what people want. And the basketball recruiting is not covered quite as hard. So I'm informed by these people. I wish we could inform our own listeners more about these people and which ones are ready and which ones aren't. You just kind of have to look at the stars. You have to see that Johan's a 4-star or 5-star and Chance is a 4-star, and kind of hear the little tidbits you get and watch some tape and hope that you can kind of see something in those tapes. We knew Jabari Smith before he got here was a can't miss guy. That the percentage of him not turning out great was pretty low. There was 20% that he could bust. But you knew he was a can't miss guy. We didn't know that Johan was 5, but we knew he was a borderline 5, that he could go either way, and it obviously went one way or whatever. Some of these other guys I'd love to know, are these the kind of guys that, hey man, he's like Jalen was a 4-star, I believe. But before we knew he even came in, we knew Jalen was one of those 4-stars because he was a super raw 4-star. He was a purely athletic 4-star. I think we found out that Johan's the same way. The guy does not know how to play basketball very well, but we know the body size and everything. With the right coaching and all that, he could be amazing, and more amazing than other players just purely off of. It's the same with NBA drafts and NFL drafts. Sometimes they just draft the guy off the fact that his hand is so large and he's 6 foot this or whatever. Sometimes that's with the recruits. We just don't know half the time when they come in because we don't get the coverage we deserve. I think sometimes that this guy's a legit ready, can't miss guy. He's a Sharif Cooper type that's straight up baller kind of guy versus who's the more potential types, the JT Thors that are potential types.
Yeah. And the reason we watched in Israel, we were super invested in that. I mean, would you have ever thought Johan and Chance would pan out this way this year after watching that in Israel?
Well, Johan was potential because I knew I was calling it out. And there's a lot of people on the internet that annoyed me with Alan Flanagan and Johan during some of the Israel games that were like, look how well they're playing. I was like, yeah, but they're just kind of purely athleticing these other guys. They're just dunking on people and running past people. Chance is the weird one to me because he looked like he was smooth out there. The shots, he looked athletic. Yeah, I really thought he was one of those guys that's more the basketball player versus Johan's athletic ability. So, man, yeah, if you missed out on some Israel games, I don't know if it actually turned out that we learned that much, but we had a lot of fun doing it in the off season.
2 digs at you real quick. By the way, everybody, we don't get credit for signing Johan and finishing second in his, recruitment because
you want to keep getting deeper into it. You said you don't want to get too deep into it.
And also a big thing that our program is burning to the ground is because we didn't sign Julian Phillips and Tennessee won on NIL. And I just want to know, Jackson, how many times did you notice Julian Phillips on the floor today for
I
Tennessee?
think you would have noticed him on Auburn's team a little more. We just need those athletes. He would be backing up right now, Jalen, instead of Johan. We wouldn't be worrying about Johan too
He
much.
probably would be taking
Johan fell into our laps because LSU collapsed. We were only going to sign Chance this year. Can you imagine if we only signed Chance this year?
We wouldn't have only signed Chance.
Who there was nobody else out there we were trying to get.
Portal,
like sure, like we whiffed in the portal too on these different guys. We were trying
How
to get Stevenson, whiffed on the portal.
We got Janai Broom, who's saving our team.
I mean, we did not fill all the needs we needed. That's what you're supposed to do in the portal. I mean, we could get a whole big discussion about. We talked about in the text message. You need to fill your needs in the portal, and then you try to get potential in high school recruiting. We needed a shooter. We didn't get a shooter. That's my whole thing. You take chances in high school with athletes and big time stars, and you fill with transport. But we can get in the offseason about some more of this stuff.
Those aren't shooters.
I think we'll do some more offseason stuff. We'd love to get the NIL guy on. We reached out. I can't remember his name, but hopefully get some NIL guy. I know they're like secretive about this NIL stuff, but there's just new math to it, and it's hard to keep up. And luckily, I think overall, Bruce and his staff has done a great job of keeping up. We've seen other sports and other coaches that just retired or just didn't try or come out with weird statements. And as frustrating as some of this Wild West stuff can be, it feels like we're trying. We don't always succeed. We're trying to figure out this year if it was better to stick with veteran talent or straight up AAU this thing. And I don't necessarily blame them for not AAUing it, because that would have been a really ambitious move. We would have been like in the top 5% of like ambitious moves. We don't know if that would work out. We might be roasting them just as hard the other way for trying that. But I think we're learning something every year. And next year, the strategy could be different. And it's just something to watch. And for me is forever, like I am just the cogs in my brain of like trying to place this stuff together as like a board game or something. It's like, it's extremely interesting to me. I don't know if it's as interesting to everybody else.
And if you're looking for a bit of positive ray of sunshine, the one thing about Aiden Holloway you can count on, he's a good shooter. He is a guard, but he's a good shooter coming out of high school. We'll see how he translates to college. So hopefully he will help next year. And then hopefully I have no doubt we both thought there would be more attrition last year. Surely this year, after this year, there's going to be some attrition.
No, theoretically, the only person that has to leave is Zep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see what the new
strategy
is. Yeah.
I guess has to, but I would think the stretch experiment of scholarship would be over.
I don't know. I got into a whole argument about it. Like they can break their contract of a scholarship at any moment, but I don't think it's the other way around. And you can't be seen. Clearly, Stretch is happy with just being on scholarship.
Years. This is 4. I mean, I don't know.
He would get his COVID year, right?
Yeah, but I just think.
I know he got engaged recently, so good for him and congratulations to Stretch. So some of these guys, I'm always arguing that you get to play college basketball and go to school for free and be everything's for free, and in fact now on top you get NIL stuff. That's the best life you could ever live. And these kids are only 24, 25, like at the oldest. And like, you're like ready to move on to sitting in a cubicle. Miss me with that. You could do that for the next 60 years.
We always want guys to stay, but now Jackson wants them all to be.
The one time we're like, all right, you're an adult now.
The team. Jackson wants half the team gone this year, I'm sure. But
to be fair, hey, you've made some good arguments that we can't seem to fill those scholarship spots as is. And I think here's another recruiting one. I heard that there's I'll say the word because it matters to this thing. There's a basketball and football recruit like Trey Donaldson. I know. Matt's like, oh, I can't believe you said the word, but it matters for this. We're not actually trying to do analogies or anything, but it could be an interesting experiment because he's very athletic. And I think he's a high 3-star guy, but that might be a way you fill that 14th scholarship spot is a guy that's playing another sport, but he can come in and just be athletic. Football. He's not.
No.
He's not playing the other sport or not playing basketball.
It's already over. He's not playing football.
Wow. He's just playing basketball, just like Trey Donaldson.
No, Trey blows my mind.
There's so many more.
Wait, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about there's another recruit out there that they've offered.
Yeah,
there's another recruit. I can't remember his name that they have offered. Hey, Trey made the right decision. He's playing really well out there. So good for him. But there's a lot more spots on professional teams on the other sport. But this other guy supposedly we were the first team to offer him both a basketball and football scholarship. And that could be an interesting way. Like at first I was like, screw that. We're too good to be like playing like games like that to try to get this other team a guy or whatever. But hey, that 14th spot is going to start getting really hard because you can only play 10, 11 guys. That 14th and 13th spots, even the 12th scholarship spot are going to be starting to get hard to get a guy that is actually really athletic and like worthy of being on the floor. you get a guy like that maybe he's not going to be a great shooter or something, but can give you like 5 to 10 minutes each half or something because he's really athletic or whatever, hey, might be good. Like a Lior Berman situation, but athletic.
Yeah. Lior's 12 and Stretch is 13 on this team. So that, I mean,
and you just have a guy that can come play some backup or some like foul trouble minutes that is actually athletic enough to not be a detriment. That might be an interesting. Yeah,
it just doesn't happen as much as
they don't leave because they're playing the other sport and that's really their main thing. But they're down to like come in and play the like
so they would only
rebounder defense guy
against the hard teams.
I don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, this has gotten sidetracked. Jalen Williams, real quick. I asked last game for him to rebound like a grown man. He did that today. I want to give him credit. I thought he defended inside really well. He got beat a couple of times, but he's given up some size, today, especially against Tennessee. 0 for 4 from 3. He was the guy that had the open looks a lot of times, and he turned it over a couple of times. He did hit a couple clutch free throws. He did hit an early shot, but 1 for 10 shooting. It's just we need more from him, and it's really giving me this really annoying roller coaster of a season where sometimes it's like, yes, he's so, he is so important. He really is so important to this team. I feel like he opens up so much for us, and they got him 10 shots today. I thought they did a good job getting him involved. It's just he's doing things to help the team win, but
he
back to back 4-point games. I think he
disappears, man. He disappears so hard when you could really use him. He's a guy that could stay one more year. Do you think he's got more ceiling that like you're like, yes, please stay, or you think there's time like eventually you'll be like, all right, well that was Jalen.
I need to know, to answer that question, I need to know what Johan will look like next year.
Well, so far, that I guess that's the experiment. Johan's not really working out that much, so we're like, please stick around, Jalen. When otherwise it might have been like, all right, time to move on. You didn't quite like ever really like do it. So now I think it'll be a weird end of season when these guys can go anywhere. They can move on to the NBA. Yep. There could be players like Alan Flanagan who just show little glimpses this year that clearly need to come back again and just don't because they're done with basketball, or they're just like ready to try. You can't blame them necessarily after being here for 4 years. Like anybody that stays around for 4 years, or for me personally, any player that sticks around and gets a degree, I know that's old school, but if you get a degree in 3 years and you're ready to move on, even to another school, I don't blame you at all. Yep. Or the NBA or whatever. If you're trying to leave and bop around 4 or 5 times, you didn't graduate, you didn't do that stuff, then I'm a little more like, okay, come on,
Yeah, there's going to be we'll have plenty of time to get there. Hopefully, with a long season that goes into March. But I think there's a ton of guys on this roster that it's going to be like, is KD really going to come back to this? Is Flanagan?
It's weird because then you're like, if KD leaves for another SEC team, you're like, crap, not like that. But if he leaves for like an Arizona State, like Devin Cambridge, we don't blame Devin Cambridge for leaving. We're like pretty cool with it, And then you want to force certain ones that you think need to go. And then if a Jalen leaves that you're like kind of 50-50 on, and then we kind of landed that like, no, it'd be good for Jalen to come back. We didn't quite get that recruit we wanted. And then he leaves and you're like, oh no, not you. We needed some people to move, but not you.
Well, and even like I think Wendell and Broome would be back. But Broome's quietly having a really good year.
I really hope Broome comes back. I think that's like if you have to spread out the NIL money, which is I just hate that we have to.
But then does Cardwell does Cardwell go somewhere else if that happens?
Hey, we talked about Broome theoretically has like 2 or 3 more years left on his thing. He's been playing so well. Like I think he's the guy. Him and that's it really. That I'm like dedicated to be like, no, if we're gonna keep one guy in this team and spend the money to keep Broome, his guys like showed it out even in the SEC now that he's a dude.
The downside really basically our disagreement about recruiting was you just want another really good player for this class in high school to add to transfers. And I agree with you. I would much rather have Aiden Holloway and Wesley Yates, or
I just think you need those ceiling guys.
Yes. Yes.
And absolutely. I think and something I wanted to bring up too was there's I don't know if this is like this in basketball, if they have a calculation, it's like the blue chip ratio. I just feel like we're not quite hitting that this last year, this next year, maybe that next year we're hitting that. Like it's always like gambling. It's like the better, the more 4 stars and 5 stars you get, the higher you can throw those dice. This year was just a crappy year. We had a 4-star and a 5-star. We rolled the dice and we hit snake eyes. And that sucks. But if you had one more, if you had a Julian Phillips, you just get a 3rd dice to throw. And getting 3 ones is so unlikely, kind of thing. And maybe it would have happened, but like you're throwing those dice. And if you had 3 5-stars, you get higher percentage. 4 stars, 3 stars,
I know. And your point is right. But two things, you can't just go get a 5-star. There's 20 of them in the country. We are not I know we are a basketball program now that's like established, but we're not that. Like, I think you and some other people overestimate where we're at in the pecking order of this thing. It's incredible that we're even doing what we're doing. We're getting the best recruits we've ever gotten. And the other thing people forget about, there aren't a lot of spaces. Like, yeah, I would have loved to bring in 4 5-stars every year, but that mathematically doesn't work, even though some of them are going to leave. Like, we have a
now with Arkansas, you can make any math work. Apparently they were like, they brought in like 10 players this year, so they didn't really work out for them. But
but we may, our 2024 class, our coaches clearly think we're going to sign 4, 5, 6 high school players plus transfer. Yeah. Like, they're looking ahead to that year as being, I think, a big transition year for the roster. If you look at what they're doing, I don't know what their plan is for 23. I hope we get another high school guy along with Aiden. I'm really excited about Aiden Holloway. But it's going to be a big transfer year for us. I think this is going to be a big portal year.
Yeah. Hey, worked out with Broom. So we've been rambling on and on this. Me and Matt would do this on our phone by ourselves anyway. So I hope you enjoy listening to it on recording. But hey, man, we almost pulled it off. I don't know. We got a big one against Texas A&M coming up. We keep talking about Bama, but hey, that Texas A&M game is huge. Lose that one, and then that next game's not anywhere near as fun. I know Bruce will get the guys concentrating on the right game. He always does. So
I'm fearful. I really, for the health of this team mentally, I just really want us to win one game this week. I think that would go a long way. We almost got this one today. Hopefully we can keep putting ourselves in these positions on the road, and then Bama. If we can be down 1 or 2 points with 3 minutes to go in these next 2 games, that's where you want to be. And I think we can be in position to have a chance in those. But man, we just got to break through. We got to get a big win.
Yeah. War Eagle, Matt.
All right. War Eagle, everybody. Thanks for listening to this rambling.